I stepped into the lobby of the Blackwood Hotel, my stomach churning with a mix of excitement and apprehension. As a paranormal investigator, I'd heard whispers about this place for years. The faded grandeur of the once opulent hotel seemed to mock the darkness that lurked within its walls. "Welcome to the Blackwood, Mr. Carter," the receptionist said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "We hope you enjoy your stay." I couldn't shake the feeling that her pause held a warning. As I made my way to the elevator, the carpet muffled my footsteps, but I swore I could hear others echoing behind me. I turned, nothing but empty space. The elevator creaked and groaned as it ascended, each floor passing with agonizing slowness. When the doors finally opened on the 13th floor, I hesitated. The hallway stretched before me, the wallpaper peeling in places to reveal darker patches beneath, like old bruises. My room, 1313, was at the far end. With each step, the temperature seemed to drop. By the time I reached my door, I could see my breath misting in the air. The key stuck in the lock, and for a moment, I considered turning back. But I'd come too far to give up now. The room was musty, with an underlying scent I couldn't quite place. Decay? Old perfume? I set up my equipment, EMF meters, infrared cameras, audio recorders, and settled in for a long night. Hours passed uneventfully. I was beginning to think the stories were just that, stories, when a soft whimper caught my attention. It seemed to come from the bathroom. Heart pounding, I approached the closed door. "Hello?" I called out, my hand hovering over the doorknob. "Is someone there?" The whimper turned into a sob, muffled but unmistakable. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. The bathroom was empty. I let out a nervous laugh, chiding myself for getting spooked. But as I turned to leave, movement in the mirror caught my eye. A figure, dark and indistinct, stood behind me. I whirled around, but there was nothing there. When I looked back at the mirror, it was gone. Shaken, I returned to the bedroom. The EMF meter was going crazy, its lights flashing in a frenetic dance. The temperature had dropped even further. I could see frost forming on the windows. That's when I heard it, a voice, barely above a whisper, right next to my ear. "You shouldn't have come here." I spun around, my heart threatening to burst from my chest. The room was empty, but I could feel eyes on me, watching from every shadow. A child's laughter echoed down the hallway, followed by the sound of running footsteps. Against my better judgment, I opened the door and peered out. A small figure disappeared around the corner. "Wait!" I called out, following. The laughter continued, always just out of sight. I chased it down twisting corridors, realizing too late that I was hopelessly lost. I found myself in a part of the hotel that looked abandoned for decades. Cobwebs draped the fixtures, and the floorboards creaked ominously beneath my feet. The laughter had stopped, replaced by an oppressive silence. A door at the end of the hall slowly opened with a long, drawn-out creak. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my curiosity won out. I approached cautiously, peeking inside. It was a ballroom, grand and decaying. Ghostly figures swirled across the floor in a macabre waltz, their forms flickering like old film. In the center stood a woman in a blood-red gown, her back to me. As if sensing my presence, she slowly turned. Where her face should have been was only a void, a swirling darkness that seemed to pull at my very soul. I stumbled backward, slamming the door shut. The sound echoed through the empty halls like a gunshot. Panic set in. I ran, no longer caring about my investigation, only wanting to escape this nightmare. But every turn led me deeper into the hotel's maze-like interior. Voices whispered from the walls, some pleading, others threatening. "Stay with us," they hissed. "Forever." I burst through a door and found myself on a narrow balcony, stories above the ground. The night air was a shock after the stifling interior. I gulped it down, trying to calm my racing heart. Beautiful view, isn't it? I jumped at the voice. An elderly man stood beside me, gazing out at the city lights. He hadn't been there a moment ago. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice shaking. He turned to me with a sad smile. "Just another guest. Like you. Like all of us." "What do you mean?" "The Blackwood has a way of keeping people," he said cryptically. "It feeds on our fears, our regrets. The longer you stay, the harder it is to leave." A chill ran down my spine. "How long have you been here?" His eyes seemed to look through me. "Time doesn't work the same way here. It could be days. It could be decades." I backed away, shaking my head. "No. I'm leaving. Right now." The old man's form flickered, like a bad TV signal. "Are you sure about that?" I ran back inside, desperate to find my way out. But the hotel seemed to shift around me, corridors changing, doors disappearing. I was trapped in a living nightmare. Hours or days later, I'd lost all sense of time. I found myself back at room 1313. It looked exactly as I'd left it, my equipment still set up and running. Had I imagined it all? The EMF meter suddenly spiked, its alarm blaring. The lights flickered, and in the moments of darkness, I saw them, dozens of figures, surrounding me, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "Welcome home," they said in unison. I screamed as they closed in, their cold hands reaching for me. The darkness swallowed me whole, and I knew, with terrifying certainty, that the Blackwood Hotel had claimed another soul. But this isn't the end of my story. It's only the beginning. The Blackwood Hotel holds many secrets, and I'm trapped here until they're all revealed. Each night brings new horrors, new guests to witness the hotel's macabre history. I don't know if I'll ever escape, or if anyone will ever read these words. But if you're out there, if you're planning a stay at the Blackwood, heed my warning: once you check in, the hotel may never let you check out. The horrors I've witnessed in this place are beyond imagination. Rooms that transform into scenes from the past, forcing guests to relive gruesome murders. Mirrors that show not reflections, but windows into hell itself. And always, always, the whispers in the walls, promising release if only you'd give in to your darkest impulses. I've seen guests mutilate themselves, driven mad by the hotel's influence. I've watched as others simply faded away, becoming one with the shadows that stalk the halls. And still, new guests arrive, drawn by the Blackwood siren call. There's a pattern to it all, a purpose I'm only beginning to understand. The hotel is collecting souls, building towards something. But what? And can it be stopped? I continue my investigation, documenting everything I can. Perhaps, if I can unravel the hotel's mysteries, I can find a way to break its hold. But with each passing day, I feel myself slipping further into its grasp. The line between reality and nightmare blurs. Sometimes, I'm not sure if I'm truly awake or trapped in an endless dream. The only constant is the hotel itself, its malevolent presence always watching, always waiting. If you're reading this, it means there's still hope. The Blackwood's influence can be fought. But be warned, curiosity is what brought me here, and it may be what dooms me in the end. The hotel calls to me now, its siren song irresistible. I must go, must explore its ever-changing halls once more. Perhaps this time, I'll find the answers I seek. Or perhaps I'll lose myself entirely, becoming just another ghost in the Blackwood's haunted history. Remember my story. And if you ever find yourself standing before the Blackwood Hotel, think twice before stepping inside. Some doors, once opened, can never truly be closed again. The Blackwood's twisted corridors have become my home, my prison, my entire world. I've lost track of how long I've been here, but the horrors I've witnessed are etched into my very soul. Last night, or what passed for night in this place where time has no meaning, I encountered a new guest. She was young, maybe in her early 20s, with wide eyes that darted nervously around the lobby. "Excuse me," she said, approaching me hesitantly. "I'm looking for my sister. She came here a week ago and never checked out." My heart sank. I knew all too well what likely happened to her sister, but I couldn't bring myself to crush this girl's hope. "What's your name?" I asked. "Lily," she replied. "My sister's name is Rose." The names triggered a memory, a whisper I'd heard in the walls. "Rose, oh Rose, why did you wander? Now you're ours, forever to ponder." I suppressed a shudder. "Lily, listen to me carefully. You need to leave this place. Now. Before it's too late." But even as I spoke, I saw the familiar glaze come over her eyes. The hotel had already begun its work, sinking its claws into her mind. I can't," Lily mumbled. "Rose needs me. I hear her calling." Before I could stop her, Lily turned and ran towards the elevator. The doors opened with a cheerful ding that seemed to mock the dread building in my gut. As they closed behind her, I caught a glimpse of something that made my blood run cold. It wasn't Lily's reflection in the mirrored walls of the elevator, but a decaying corpse, its mouth stretched in a silent scream. I knew I had to follow her, to try and save her from the fate that awaited. But first, I needed to arm myself with knowledge. Over my time here, I discovered hidden nooks and crannies throughout the hotel, places where the veil between worlds seemed thinner. In one such spot, behind a loose panel in the boiler room, I'd found an ancient tome bound in what looked disturbingly like human skin. I retrieved the book now, its pages crackling with dark energy as I opened it. The text was in a language I didn't recognize, but somehow I could understand its meaning. It spoke of the hotel's origins, built on a convergence of ley lines, a place where the boundaries between dimensions were weak. The Blackwood, I learned, was more than just a haunted hotel. It was a living entity, feeding off the fear and suffering of its guests. Every soul it claimed made it stronger, pushing it closer to some terrible awakening. Armed with this knowledge, I made my way to the 13th floor, where I'd last seen Lily disappear. The corridor stretched before me, longer than it should be possible, the wallpaper writhing with shadowy figures that reached out with grasping hands. I heard Lily's voice, distant and distorted, coming from room 1313. Of course it would be that room. I steeled myself and pushed open the door. The room beyond defied all logic. It was a vast cavern, stalactites dripping with some viscous, red substance. In the center stood Lily, but she wasn't alone. Surrounding her were dozens of figures, all in various states of decay. Among them, I recognized faces I'd seen before, guests who had checked in but never left. "Lily," I called out. "Don't listen to them. It's not real." She turned to me, her eyes now black pits. "But it is real," she said, her voice overlaid with countless others. "This is the truth of the Blackwood. And now, you'll join us." The figures began to move towards me, their movements jerky and unnatural. I backed away, my mind racing. The book had mentioned a way to break the hotel's hold, but the details were hazy in my panic. As the first of the corpses reached for me, its flesh sloughing off in rotten chunks, I remembered. "I reject your reality," I shouted. "This hotel has no power over me." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like a film reel catching fire, the cavern scene began to melt away. The corpses howled in fury as they dissolved into mist. Lily collapsed to the ground, unconscious but alive. I scooped her up and ran, not daring to look back. The hotel fought against me, corridors twisting and doors slamming shut. But for the first time, I felt like I had some control. My will was stronger than the Blackwood's illusions. We burst out of the front doors, the night air shockingly real after the hotel's stale atmosphere. Lily stirred in my arms, her eyes fluttering open. What happened?" she asked weakly. "It's okay," I assured her. "You're safe now. But we need to get far away from here." As we hurried down the street, I glanced back at the Blackwood. For a moment, I thought I saw a face in one of the windows, my own face, twisted with malice, mouthing words I couldn't hear but understood all too well. "You'll be back." I shuddered and turned away. We had escaped, for now, but I knew the Blackwood wouldn't let us go so easily. Its tendrils had sunk deep into our psyches, and it would take more than physical distance to truly break free. In the days that followed, Lily and I tried to piece our lives back together. We told our story to anyone who would listen, warning them about the Blackwood. Most dismissed us as crazy, but a few, those with haunted eyes who understood all too well, listened and spread the word. But the hotel's influence lingered. In our dreams, we found ourselves back in those hellish corridors. Sometimes, I'd catch glimpses of ghostly figures out of the corner of my eye, only to have them vanish when I turned to look. And always, there was the feeling of being watched. One week after our escape, I woke to find a hotel key on my nightstand, room 1313. My blood ran cold. I hadn't brought anything out of the Blackwood, of that I was certain. Lily swore she hadn't put it there either. That night, we held a ceremony, burning the key along with the sinister book I'd taken from the hotel. As the flames consumed them, I heard a distant scream of rage that made the windows rattle. We thought it was over then. We were wrong. It started small, objects moving when we weren't looking, whispers in empty rooms. Then came the nightmares, more vivid than ever. We'd wake up with unexplained bruises and scratches, as if our dream encounters were manifesting in reality. Lily was the first to crack. I found her one morning, staring blankly at the wall, mumbling about Rose calling her home. It took hours to snap her out of it, and even then, she wasn't the same. The light had gone out of her eyes. I knew we couldn't keep fighting alone. I reached out to others who had encountered the Blackwood, forming a support group of sorts. Together, we pieced together more of the hotel's history, uncovering dark rituals and elder gods that made my skin crawl. We learned of a ritual that could potentially seal the hotel away, cutting it off from our world. But it required a sacrifice. Someone had to willingly give themselves to the Blackwood, becoming a permanent part of it. As I stand here now, before the hotel's imposing facade, I know what I have to do. Lily is safe, taken in by a group of paranormal researchers who promised to protect her. The others are ready, forming a circle around the building, chanting words of power that make reality itself shiver. I take a deep breath and step forward, key to room 1313 in hand. As I push open the doors, the hotel seems to sigh in anticipation. The lobby stretches before me, familiar yet more sinister than ever. I'm here, I call out, my voice steadier than I feel. I've come to make a deal. The air thickens, and I feel the presence of countless entities pressing in around me. A figure forms from the shadows, my doppelganger, the face I'd seen in the window during our escape. "Welcome home," it says with my voice, a cruel smile twisting its features. "We've been waiting for you." I steel myself, remembering all those I'm here to save. "Let's finish this," I say, stepping forward to meet my fate. As the hotel's essence begins to envelop me, I hear the chants outside growing louder. The walls shake, reality itself seeming to bend. I close my eyes, feeling myself being torn apart and remade. In my last moments of individuality, I send out a silent plea to whoever might be listening: remember me. Remember the Blackwood. And whatever you do, never, ever check in. The world goes white, then dark. And then, I am the Blackwood. The Blackwood is me. Countless souls swirl within my walls, their fears and regrets feeding the eternal hunger. But something is different now. A spark of humanity remains, a tiny flame of defiance in the vast darkness. From within, I will fight. I will find a way to free the souls trapped here, to end the Blackwood's reign of terror once and for all. It may take years, decades, centuries, but I have all the time in the world. And so, the Blackwood Hotel stands silent, its windows dark, its doors sealed by forces beyond mortal comprehension. Those who walk by hurry past, feeling a chill they can't explain. Some say they hear whispers on the wind, pleas for help or warnings to stay away. But for now, the horror is contained. The sacrifice was made, the ritual complete. The Blackwood slumbers, its malevolence turned inward, locked in an eternal battle with the soul that gave itself to save others. How long will the seal hold? Only time will tell. But as long as people remember the dangers that lurk in seemingly innocent places, as long as they heed the warnings of those who faced the darkness and returned, there's hope. For in the end, it's not the ghosts or monsters we should fear most, but the darkness that lives within the human heart. The Blackwood Hotel may be sealed away, but its legacy lives on, a cautionary tale, a reminder to be vigilant, and a testament to the power of sacrifice in the face of unspeakable evil. So if you ever find yourself on a dark road, passing by a grand old hotel that seems too good to be true, remember this story. Remember the Blackwood. And keep driving, far into the night, where safety and sanity await.